What was it like meeting Bob Barker for the first time?
Oh, out of body. Absolutely an out of body experience. It was my first audition. Actually, there was an almost meeting, and then there was like a real meeting. And the almost meeting happened on a previous taping day of The Price is Right when another guy was auditioning. They had me come in to watch this guy and the show and
Yeah,
to understand what was expected of me when I got there. So, they wanted me to watch his warm up and how he interacted with the audience or didn't, or whatever was going on there. So I was standing off stage right over by the producer's table. This is before the show, and the warm up's going on, and I'm all suit and tied. I'm a weatherman from Palm Springs. I knew what they expected, in the show, so I'm all dressed up and
yeah,
and I'm watching this guy do his warm up, and I kind of heard some rustling behind me. There's a bunch of tables and a lot of prize signage and stuff back there, and I thought somebody was just in and out of drawers back there. And I turned around, and it was Bob Barker standing behind me, all suit and tied, microphone up, and he was fixing his tie, his purple tie that he was wearing that day. And he nodded to me, and I think I nodded back. I mean, I wanted desperately to say hello and tell him who I was, but I realized in a split second, oh my God, he's going to make an audience entrance today, and I
yeah,
guess it's going to happen now, or he wouldn't be standing behind me. Don't mess with him. So just smile and nod back.
yeah.
So that was really my first in person kind of seeing Bob Barker in the flesh. Then the following week, when I get there to actually audition for the show, it's the morning meeting backstage in the green room of The Price is Right. And it's the director there and all the stage managers and the models and myself and the producer and the associate producer and the AD, the associate director, and all these people. You sit around a big table and you have a table read of what's going to go on. And the director talks about, what camera is going to shoot what prize and what door behind what facade that opens up. Rich, this is when I want you to pause and cue here, blah, blah, blah. This model, stand over here and review. So that all happens during these morning meetings, and that's what's going on. And when Roger Dobkowitz enters the room, and he kind of knocked on the siding of the door because it was already open. He kind of knocked on the side. He said, "Excuse me, Bart." Bart was our director, Bart Iskander. Bart, do you mind if I make a little interruption? And as he's saying this, he's walking in, and right behind him, Mr. Barker's walking in a white shirt with real thin blue and red stripes, blue jeans, white tennis shoes. He had his two suits for the day on hangers in suit bags over his shoulder, and he had his Cardinals duffel bag in his hand. And he came in behind Roger, and Roger said, "Can I pause, Bart? I wanted to introduce Rich to our host of our show. Rich, this is Bob Barker." And in my head, I'm thinking, no shit, Sherlock. You know what I mean? I was like, oh my God, how formal. I can't believe it. Look at, and I'm standing up right away, and I'm putting Bob had dropped his gym bag and is already extending his hand across this table over one of the models' heads. And I stood up and I said, "Oh, pleasure to meet you, Mr. Barker." And he said, "Oh, pleasure to have you here, Rich. We hope you have a good time." And Bart or Roger right away says, "Well, I don't want to interrupt any further. Go ahead, you guys get." And Bob picked up his duffel bag and was walking out. And Bob said something like, "Well, have fun today, Rich." He's walking out saying this. I'm back here, and he's like, "Have fun today, Rich." And I said, "I just hope I don't screw it up." And he stopped and he turned around and he said, "Don't worry if you do. Don't worry if you do." And I was like, wow. Whew. All the pressure came off me immediately because, they do a pickup after the show and pick up the announcer's lines. But to hear the host, the executive producer of the show, and, 35 years on the freaking program, to tell me, "Don't worry," that was very comforting. And he meant it. I could tell. I could tell he meant it.
Also, I forgot to mention this earlier. Games before game shows, there was audience participation show before game shows in Bob Barker's time. Um, and also, I believe you're the last person to say a Marcus in production. Am I correct?
That is correct. I'm the last guy to have said it on two different Mark Goodson shows. pardon me, I'm the last guy. My in with The Price is Right, or my connection to The Price is Right, is having worked for Mark Goodson Productions myself down here in the state of Florida a long time ago during the Florida Lottery's Flamingo Fortune television show. It was a game show for the Florida Lottery, and I had they auditioned me to be the host. I didn't get the host job, but they hired me as the show announcer. And during that show, it changed from a Mark Goodson television production to a Goodson production. Mr.
Yeah.
Goodson had died, and his son had taken over the company, and it was time now for him to just take off Mark's name, and just say a Goodson television production. So I was the last guy to say it here in Florida on the Florida Lottery's Flamingo Fortune as it changed over. And when I got to The Price is Right, my first, oh, couple years, well, I guess it was until Mr. Barker
Retired.
retired, right? And it was the first shows under the Fremantle banner.
Yeah.
Uh, I shouldn't say that. It wasn't under the first shows under their banner. I just mean it was the first shows where they were going to highlight now a
Yeah.
Fremantle media production. So the season before, on my last show, was the last time that I had said, a Mark Goodson television production. And I thought about that the first day when they had me do the pickups, because you read that once. I
Yeah.
read a Mark Goodson television production. I read that one time the first day I auditioned, and it played for my entire tenure, 1,585, or now because Fremantle took over, but it played all during that time that it was a Mark Goodson production. It was recorded. And so I never read it live in front of the audience at all. So that first day
Oh,
in the morning, just before rehearsal, they said, "Hey, we need to pick up the new tagline. It is now a Fremantle media production. Stand by, here we go. 3, 2, 1, Rich, cue." And I went, "A Fremantle media production." And that was it.
okay.